can. Thanks for joining. We're here today to talk about HashiCorp Vault, which is their secrets management security solution, amongst a couple of other enterprise products that they offer. Two partners on the call today, hyper-specialized partners of HashiCorp. Myself, I work for Nuaware. We are HashiCorp's EMEA distribution and go-to-market partner. We specialize in cloud-native DevOps, DevSecOps technologies, which I'll run through shortly. And on the call is another hyper-specialized partner of HashiCorp, Somerford Associates. They are more the implementation and license resell layer of HashiCorp, one of just a handful in the UK. I'll hand over to them very shortly, and yeah, you'll get their expertise on HashiCorp Vault and some of the services that they can offer around that. Whether you're an open source user, the free version, an enterprise user, or whether you're looking to hear about Vault for the first time, there's things that they can talk about that will be very valuable to you. If we can go to the next slide, please, John. So this is your team today. So as I said, I work for Nuaware. I look after our partner network in the UK and Ireland, and we've got Tom, John, and Ed from Somerford, who I'll let do a bit of talking in a few minutes or so. Next slide, please, John. So just a very brief introduction about Nuaware and who we are, just to set a bit of context before I hand over. So we are part of a large cybersecurity global distribution company called Exclusive Networks. They acquired us at the end of 2020, basically to head up their cloud-native DevOps division. It was an area that they didn't have the expertise and the skills in, and Nuaware have specialized only in that area since 2016. In the UK, we're the only distribution company that specializes only in this area. So we don't touch hardware, we don't do endpoint security. We only focus on cloud native and DevSecOps technologies. Next slide, please, John. So these are sort of some headline stats. So distribution is part of what we do. We do license resale, of course, but we also provide training services. I'll go into that in a bit more detail shortly, but we're very much a value add distribution partner, not only to our reseller partners, but also to our end customer network as well. We do have a direct touch part of the business. And there's a lot of things that we do in terms of enablement for customers across the UK and globally. Next slide, please, John. So a little bit about the technologies. We're basically split into three main pillars, if you like. The first one is cloud native infrastructure, which is often the first step with an organization moving to the cloud, whether that be private or public. So containerization is a massive part of that, very much a foundation of the DevOps culture. We are the only distribution partner of Docker in EMEA, who have their Docker business product for developers to containerize their applications effectively. As you can see, the HashiCorp stack does a lot of the heavy lifting here with Terraform, Consul, and Nomad. They are all open source and enterprise offerings of HashiCorp. And then LaunchDarkly is a newer vendor that we work with that focuses on feature management and toggles and feature flags. If you need to find out more about any of these products, just my details will be on the slides at the end. The reason we're highlighting this is our stack is very much a best in breed portfolio, an ecosystem, for want of a better term. So everything integrates with each other, and certainly Terraform and Vault have some level of integration with most of the other products that we offer. And that's the reason why we're sort of talking through this today. Next slide, please, John. Next part is more focused on the security aspect of the portfolio. Very important. It's a lot different in the cloud than it is sort of your traditional firewalls and networking that you'd see a long time ago. Vault is part of that. I'm not going to steal Somerford's thunder and talk too much about that, because they're going to cover that shortly. Some of the other security products we offer, possibly names you recognize, Sysdig, which focus more on the container runtime security and the cloud security posture management. Apiro focuses specifically on the application security, and we've just recently started working with Sneak as well, which is a big name in the developer security space. So again, the idea here is that all of these vendors together would give you full coverage and full security across all your cloud environment. Next slide, please, John. And the final one is resilience, possibly a little bit more advanced in terms of where a customer is or where you are on your cloud journey. But we've got a couple of vendors in this space, and this is all about building resilience, prioritizing alerts and incident reports so that developers can effectively get on with their job and build software and not have to respond to all the bits and pieces and challenges that come with that. So a couple of vendors there that you might recognize that we're also distribution partners for. Next slide, please, John. So a lot of the value add that I mentioned, as I said, we don't just like to resell licenses to our partners. We work with them to scale business in this area, and we do that by providing training like this through partners, but we also do our own taster workshops. We do a lot of free boot camps where you can get hands-on with the technologies that we use, and we provide certified training such as CCAD, CKA, Kubernetes training, which again is crucial to understanding this area and the products that we sell. So we want to help you. We do that through our partners like Somerford, I'm going to hand over to you very shortly. And yeah, we understand this area can be complex depending on where you are. So there's a lot of resources available to you via ourselves and Somerford to help you effectively. And that's what we want to introduce, some of those concepts this morning. Next slide, please, John. So last slide, I think just a little snapshot of the customer base that we work with. Our split is roughly a third financial, a third public sector, and a third makes up the rest. I'm based in UK and Ireland, but we have teams in the Middle East covering APAC, DAX, Southern Europe, and we have a team in America as well. And you can see obviously some big names that are now adopting DevOps as a culture and some of the products that we sell to these companies via our partner network. So that was all I wanted to talk about today. As I said, just a brief introduction. We're here today to talk about Vault, HashiCorp Vault, and I'm going to hand over now to Tom and his team to take you through what they can do for you in regards to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks everybody for joining us this morning to talk about HashiCorp Vault. JJ, if you're able to move on to the agenda, I'll just set the scene as to what we're going to cover today. So I'm going to kick off with a quick introduction to Somerford Associates, who we are and where we fit into this puzzle. Then I'll pass over to JJ, who's one of our engineers here at Somerford, specializing in the HashiCorp technology stack. He's going to give us an overview of Vault as a platform, give us some examples of some of the use cases we're currently seeing Vault being used for in our customers, and also go through how the open source software that's available with Vault stacks up against enterprise and some of the differences that you'll see there. Then we're going to hand over to Ed. Ed's in our project team here at Somerford. He has been taking lead on creating what we call the Vault Acceleration Program. I won't go into detail on it now and steal his thunder, but he's going to walk us through exactly what that involves, how it's structured, and how you can get involved if it's something that you wish to do with us. Then we'll hand the reins back over to Chris at the end for an opportunity to ask any questions. Thanks, JJ. So my name is Tom Longley. I'm the sales director here for the UK and I here at Somerford Associates. As you can see, we are a focused delivery partner here of HashiCorp, and we at the moment specialize in the Terraform and Vault platforms. Obviously, we're here to talk about Vault today, but what we mean by specialized is not only do we sell the license, we provide that wraparound service to make sure that delivery is successful, and I'll go into a bit more detail on that as we go through. Up on screen now, you've actually got the full Somerford portfolio. So similar to Nuaware, we're a very specialized partner. We don't like to partner with hundreds of technologies. By design, value. Apologies, I think I may have dropped out there for a second. I hope I'm. You're looking worried. Am I back?
Sorry, Tom. Yeah, we've got you back now.
Yeah, brilliant. Apologies for that. Internet issues, working from home. So I'm not sure where I got to there, but before I cut out, But really, this slide is to show that we are very focused on what we do, and we aim to provide the kind of services that we're talking about with HashiCorp today. We provide that wraparound service for all our different technologies, similar to how Nuaware deliver on theirs. JJ, if you go on to the next slide, please. So what does that look like in practice? What we've got here, as the slide builds out, you'll see is a typical engagement with one of our customers and where we're involved and how we can help at each step of the way. This goes from understanding those initial strategies and how they might translate into requirements and projects, right through to implementing the technology and the ongoing support after. Obviously today, talking about Vault, we're going to really focus on those first 3, slightly 4 stages. So we'll talk about the organization right through to implementation. That's where the Vault Acceleration Program really sits and helps our customers. But just so you're aware, we also provide ongoing support after that initial purchase to make sure that your investment in the technology is realized right through using it. JJ, if you go on to the next slide. And what that means is that we are a trusted partner for lots of companies here in the UK across several different industries. We work with customers from 20-man companies right up to some of the largest companies here in the UK, as you can see on the screen, across multiple different verticals. So we have specialists in areas such as finance and insurance. We have people from industry and in government as well. So we work closely. We've got a government team here at Somerford who specialize in that area. And now I'm going to hand over to JJ.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Hi, everyone. As it says, I'm John Jarvis, JJ for short. I'm a technical consultant here at Somerford. Been here for a little over 3 years. I'm certified as a Splunk architect, but I mainly work, as Tom said, with what's often called the HashiStack, where I'm a certified HashiCorp implementation professional, or CHIP for short, in both Terraform and Vault. And as it says there, we're going to focus on the latter today. Okay, so today's talk is about one of those partners that Tom and Chris have been talking about, of course, HashiCorp. In a phrase, HashiCorp is enabling cloud automation, and famously, in certain circles anyway, cloud infrastructure automation with the likes of Terraform and Vagrant, but also automating the applications that run on top of all this. And HashiCorp's recommended model, largely what organizations and individuals mean when they talk about DevOps and DevSecOps, is called the cloud operating model. So much of what they and Somerford, as their hyper-specialized partner, talk about with clients and prospective clients is more of a journey, a transformation that will be unique to each client, as will the end goal. And keep in mind that even in the that perfect fit, best case scenario, shall we say, the cloud operating model is still an ideal with huge value in working towards, but something that needs to be balanced against an organization's many priorities. It's about enabling that automation that brings efficiency without compromising an organization's security posture. So HashiCorp, as I said, all about cloud computing and specifically helping organizations take advantage of it easily. They don't presuppose what that looks like. It can be full bore multi-cloud services, all the way to a few early cloud services that an organization wants to seamlessly operate alongside a lot of legacy on-prem stuff. HashiCorp's tooling, seen here, and again, affectionately known as the HashiStack, that can help organizations across that spectrum. And Chris mentioned this briefly. It's also worth noting at the outset that all 4 of these products have open source editions, as well as more fully featured and officially supported enterprise editions. Okay, so first up, Terraform, infrastructure as code. This is about the new speed of business, yes, but it's also about all the good things that come with code. So that consistency, minimizing the risk of humans botching things, and making sure far and wide in your organization, things are done the same and well every time. An auditor's dream. Second, star of today, Vault, secrets management. Again, it's about consistency, and where there used to be a sprawl of secrets and a hodgepodge of secrets management tooling, Now there's a centralized resilient store with the flexibility to cover pretty much every use case as well as improving on them. For example, in the case of dynamic secrets, which we'll get into a bit later, what we mean by that, where even in that worst case scenario data breach, those secrets are only of limited and then diminishing utility. Third, console. This is about underpinning all those workloads and applications in a dynamic fashion. For example, this cloud infrastructure that you've codified and built with Terraform changes at pace. And that means your networking needs to keep up. So support tickets for updating firewall rules are out and automated service discovery is in. Finally, Nomad, an orchestrator like Kubernetes, but focused on simplicity in contrast to the former's complexity. Nomad's happy to work alongside on-prem and cloud-based workloads too, which comes back to those organizations that, they're just starting to dip their toes into cloud maybe. Nomad is surprisingly flexible as well, able to perform at the extreme of edge computing on even hobby scale kit with very limited network connectivity. But again, today is about Vault, so let's get into that a little more. When we're talking about Vault and any of the HashiCorp products, it's all about the cloud operating model, as we've been saying. And regardless of where an organization is with it at any moment, dipping their toes in or full bore multi-cloud services, secrets management is required. Absolutely. Now, secrets management, that used to mean something quite different. I'm rather old, you may have noticed. Yeah, so data centers and that sort of thing, walls. Private data centers as well. You might have something like, as an example, application A is running on a server and it needs to talk to a database. It's all within a hardened perimeter. We don't need to worry about trusting application A or the people writing it and maintaining it. So we hard code the username and password right in there. Right in the code running on the server and all will be well. A bit facetious, I know, but seriously, I lived this. It was pretty much like that. So jump ahead now. This organization wants to start using the cloud operating model with applications that may be running all over the place, including in the cloud. Maybe they're moving to a microservice-based architecture now, and they need many copies of, let's call it a banking application now, banking application A. And to meet the lunch hour rush of people signing on with their phones, they need a lot of resiliency there. And similarly, they'll probably need different copies of the database as well. So this is a trickier problem in general, of course. How do all these applications and databases find one another, for example? But bringing it back to secrets management, which is the focus of today, how do they communicate securely? What happens if app A's code gets leaked or one of its developers has their laptop stolen? Now we have a big problem. All that code, or certainly the secrets hard-coded therein, need to be changed, and preferably in a way that minimizes banking app downtime. Okay. So this is where Vault comes in. Released in 2015, we've now recently seen, I think it's 1.13 drop. In the previous scenario, Vault reduces the risks by generating dynamic secrets. Apologies, I mentioned dynamic secrets before. What does that mean exactly? Well, one, the secrets are generated on demand. They aren't sitting in code or in flat files or in sticky notes, waiting to be compromised. Applications request them as needed by hitting a Vault API endpoint, the access to which is controlled by Vault policy. And two, secrets are ephemeral. That is, they have a limited time to live by default, after which they expire without any manual intervention. So those credentials that we talked about on the previous slide on that laptop probably won't work by the time whoever picked it up tries to use them. So let's ground this a bit more with a few case studies. Vodafone's analytics and data engineering team manage a large cloud estate that serves many internal customers on Google Cloud in their case, for all analytical machine learning, AI, and business intelligence use cases. Their team uses HashiCorp Vault to manage the secrets in Google Cloud. They decided to use Vault to implement their own high volume, low latency encryption service for PII, personally identifiable information. As one of the world's leading telcos, Vodafone ingests data from more than 3 million mobile customers and Internet of Things or IoT devices. To quote one of their engineering leads, "Look what you can do if you're a Vault enterprise customer. Look how easy it is to write a plugin to your own requirements and make it process as fast as you can afford." In their case, that's getting upwards of 10 million encryptions a second, or an eye-watering 36 billion per hour. But to unlock all that, the key point here, effective adoption of Vault is crucial. Okay, so what do we mean by effective adoption? Let's switch gear slightly to fintech. 80% of the top global financial companies are HashiCorp customers in general. And in the financial sector in particular, HashiCorp typically sees the time from ideation to the delivery of production grade service to customers as somewhere between 4 to 6 months. Again, effective adoption is crucial in competing in that market. Delays or worse, mistakes will mean the difference between riding and missing those waves, as it were. For example, in the case of the 2019 attack on Capital One, where even though the data was encrypted on disk and in transit, compromised credentials meant the attacker could access everything in clear text. It's easy to go from leader to lesson in this sector in particular, one could argue. So what would effective adoption, bit of a thought experiment now, what would effective adoption of Vault have meant in this case? So I just pulled a diagram from one of the reports. Happy to link to this later, but yeah, I just wanted to use this as an example. So we see that compromised credentials, excuse me, were a big factor in the success of this attack. Oh, so that's what we said, sorry. Well, here, smack in the middle of the slide, you see a variation on the hard-coded credentials I talked about way earlier in that banking app example. This time, however, the static credentials are an EC2 instance with persistent access to a privileged IAM role. So it's got it all the time, basically. With Vault, that isn't necessary nor desired. The default is no access, or default deny, you'll often hear it talked about. The credentials can be available to an application instantly on demand, as discussed, provided, and this is the crucial bit, provided that they can properly authenticate themselves to Vault, which this attacker would not have been able to do in the scenario. So, bang. Access to the metadata service that you see up in the top bar right there would be denied. But let's say the attacker managed to get access to the S3 buckets and bottom right of the slide there through other means. With Vault's encryption as a service, those records would be encrypted at rest, which would cut off that access as well. Because if you remember it, they had clear text access to that data. So that's now it's safely out of the attacker's reach. And even in the more difficult scenario of the attacker somehow gaining access to a Vault token privileged enough to send decryption requests to Vault, it's literally one command that rotates the associated key to a new version while simultaneously invalidating the old one. Vault would immediately stop servicing any request to decrypt data using the old key, which you can imagine could be useful in scenarios, even in scenarios where the security team only suspects that maybe a key has been compromised. It's a bit esoteric here, I know, but the point is the organization has options, and options close to hand that work quickly. The extended duration and ineffectiveness of Capital One's response to this attack was another big lesson learned by FinTech that day. Which brings us to what does it mean to run Vault well? Well, if you've effectively adopted it, as we've talked about, that is the proof of concept use case. Let's say that you've come up with is a hit, and you've got teams queued up to try it out, or clients clamoring for the service and services that Vault underpins. You'll find yourself in a pattern that we at Somerford have seen many times. Vault will end up in the business critical path, which is kind of what the title of today's presentation is all about. And with that, any unplanned outages mean big losses for the organization. And Vault's performance may start to suffer trying to service those larger user bases. Okay, so what do you do at that point? Well, it's time for Vault Enterprise. You might say, well, why is that exactly? Well, simply put, we've talked about leaders and lessons, and nowhere is that distinction more obvious than around business continuity planning. Things will go wrong, and it's all about what you've planned for. What have you got in place? Say you've got the open source offering of Vault. Well, okay. Even in the absolute best case scenario, where you have multiple clusters, multiple OSS clusters, you can't replicate the data across them at scale. Are you taking manual snapshots? Because automated snapshots or backups are only available with Vault Enterprise. And then are you manually restoring those snapshots on your standby cluster or clusters? They will be well out of date when disaster strikes. Are you willing to lose hours of data from your client-facing services? The solution is obvious. You need disaster recovery, which means you need Vault Enterprise. We've seen use cases where clients have got that switch to their secondary Vault Enterprise cluster down to sub 1 minute times, but it will always be a matter of minutes and single-digit minutes. And that's to a Vault that is completely up to date and ready to go. This doesn't even need to be limited to disaster, by the way. We have clients that use it as a simple way to upgrade their clusters. And with automated snapshots, you have other options for recovering from mistakes as well. It doesn't need to be escalated to disaster immediately. And you don't need to worry about, because they're automated, you don't need to worry about resources, staff kicking out those backups off manually on a regular basis, that sort of thing. And then there's the performance aspect of Vault as well. That second point I talked about earlier in the patterns. You may say that, my Vault OSS is a star, performance couldn't be better. To which I would say, do you plan on expanding your business? Because there is a hard limit to how far Vault OSS can scale. Even with high availability, all requests hit the active node in a Vault cluster. Any requests to a standby node will get passed to the active node straight away. So at some point, all those happy clients you service will be too much for that active node. It will go down. But we have a standby. We have many standbys. Well, as soon as one of them becomes the active node, now it faces exactly the same level of traffic. And you guessed it, it goes down, and so on. You need, as a minimum, performance standby nodes to handle Vault read requests, which are usually the more numerous, across multiple active nodes. So spread that load out. And maybe you even need performance replication to do the same for Vault write requests. Both of these are only available with Vault Enterprise. Again, it's about that organizational complexity, delivering services that your clients can rely on, that you can sign up to provide with confidence, even to 5 nines level of levels of reliability. Apologies. I could go on, but I think you get the picture. And it is complex, which is why Somerford offers what Tom had mentioned earlier, and we call the Vault Acceleration Program, or VAP for short, to help you navigate this complexity to a solution that's right for you. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Ed, one of our project managers, to tell you a bit more about VAPs.
Thank you, JJ. Hi, my name's Ed Andrew. I'm a project manager here at Somerford. I've been here just over a year now. So the next few slides are around the Vault Acceleration Program, or VAP for short. Kind of simply put, the VAP program is designed to provide you with expert guidance and produce a roadmap really on how you can expand your usage of Vault. And as the comments here suggest, accelerate your adoption to get the most out of the service. Yes, please, JJ. So who's the VAP service for? The VAP program is really aimed at customers who are in one of the two situations: existing Vault enterprise customers who are perhaps struggling to get the most out of the service. We can often find this can be down to a lack of knowledge on how to develop their Vault infrastructure, or just simply don't have the time and resources to create the appropriate plan on how to expand their Vault. And then listed below are a few of the kind of work streams that we would typically look at in this scenario. So operations and monitoring, the reliability of your Vault, the performance and DR strategies you have in place, or a need to look at improving additional use cases for Vault. And then the second typical kind of VAP customers are those who are using Vault open source and are considering moving to enterprise. So typically these are customers whose Vault needs are becoming more complex, and the benefits that enterprise can offer, as JJ's kind of gone over, will help to really align with their strategic aim. So what does the VAP look like? The program's broken down into 3 phases, and depending on the number of Vault users in your company, it can take anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks to complete the whole program. Stage 1 is the kickoff, where we look to identify key stakeholders, and we'll get a good idea of the high-level goals that the customer is looking to achieve. So, is reliability the key driver here, or perhaps training to improve that resource within your business? And the second stage then is really the meat of the program. Our consultants will run a series of interviews and workshops with the relevant stakeholders, and that helps us really to do a deep dive into the customer's usage of Vault, how it's set up now, what are the limitations and risks that we've identified, and really what the customer is then trying to look to get out of Vault. And then off the back of that discovery stage, our consultants put together a number of reports relating to the specific ways that we think you could improve your Vault environment. And these reports really help to highlight the current state of your Vault setup, again, where we've identified the potential issues or risks and what steps we think you can take in order to improve these. And then the final stage is the feedback. So once we've gathered or created all these reports, we will feed these back into our customers with the suggestions. So these next couple of slides are really just around the deliverables. So these are the reports that I've just been speaking about. So firstly, there's the health check. So as mentioned, as part of the discovery phase, our consultants run a series of interviews and workshops. We've got a structured questionnaire that we use, that we've put together, and it provides the consultants with all the information they need really in which to build all these reports out. But we also share this with the customer, as it really just gives them a great overview of the current state of their Vault environment. We also produce a reliability and training plan. The reliability plan is designed to provide recommendations on how you can improve the resilience of Vault for scalability and high availability. And the training plan will provide a roadmap suggesting training sessions to improve knowledge and resource for your organization. Our adoption plan will look at how you are currently using Vault and how you can expand the capabilities to get the most out of it. And then finally, the operation plan is used to tie all these proposed plans together and link them to the customer's overall organizational strategy and help prioritize the work streams from the different areas of those reports. And then finally, kind of as a follow-on from the VAP, we can provide a statement of work. So this is really if we need to come in to assist with any work, and the statement of work could be around some of the recent examples, bespoke training that we can offer to, again, help just improve knowledge so that customers are able to use Vault more effectively in their business, or if it's to help with a particular piece of implementation work. And again, that could be due to a lack of knowledge in the customer's setup, or it could be that, again, they just don't have the time to do it themselves. The next few slides are just links to the Somerford website, where there's more information on the program itself. But that's everything from the VAP program. So I'll hand back to Chris to open the Q&A.
Cheers, Ed. Thanks for that. I think the thing that stuck out for me that JJ said was effective adoption, right? With Vault in particular, it's not a product that you can just buy out the box and plug in and start using, right? You need the expertise and the service deployment there to make sure you're making the most out of it. And just on that point, while we wait to see if some questions do come in, I know the answer to this, but I think it's worth posing anyway, is how much does the VAT part, the discovery element of this, how much does it cost, and typically how long does it take?
So in terms of how long it takes, it can take anywhere from about 1 to 4 weeks, and it really depends on how many people you have in the company that use Vault that we need to speak to get the information to build the reports. But 1 to 4 weeks, usually on the shorter side of things. In terms of the cost, the initial discovery and consultation is all free of charge. The only time there would be kind of additional charges is if you looked to take on the work that we would produce as part of the follow-on statement of work. But in terms of the training plan, the adoption plan, operations plan, all of that is a free of charge service.
Awesome. Don't get much for free these days, so I'm sure that's music to people's ears. Yeah, really valuable part of what you offer. Thanks, Ed. JJ, I have been sent a question regarding the case study you mentioned, Capital One. So someone's asked how things might have been different for them had they implemented Vault in the example that you gave.
Yeah, so I think I said at the time, it was a bit earlier on. It was a bit facetious, some of the stuff I've done in there. I've simplified a lot of stuff to get it and within the time limit. But yeah, it's securing operations at scale is always going to be incredibly complex, obviously. But you gain a lot with the centralized management that comes with HashiCorp Vault. I mean, I think that's the one of the key points that you'd want to take away from today. But that said, you do need to take proper advantage of it as well. You can't, as you say, you can't just throw it in and then, silver bullet. I think another key aspect I will bring up just quickly, their ineffective response. I mentioned that. And I think a key aspect to that is, and around using Vault well, you have to have some effective observability tooling basically in place so that you can see problems arise. You can see patterns long before there's a problem. Have warning signs that give you a leg up basically. So if you're not taking advantage of that, basically you're throwing away freebies at that point. And yeah, it's about integrating security and automating all of that stuff alongside your operations. It's DevOps isn't just about the applications that get all the glory kind of thing.
Great, thanks, John. I just have one more. I don't see any more coming in. So the email just on the screen, by the way, if you have any follow-ups, or a lot of people will most likely watch this on demand, feel free to reach out with any questions on Vault or the wider HashiCorp stack that Somerford and ourselves can help with. But the last question I did have was going back to the VAP there, Ed, how much work is involved from the customer side to get the ball rolling on a VAP?
So not too much. Essentially, all we need is to identify the Vault users within the customers on the customer side, and just have some availability from their side from a series of workshops. So these are usually kind of small numbers and 1 to 2 hour long workshops of small groups. So if you only have a few people using Vault, then it could be only a couple of hours of work on their side. Once we've got all the information, then we take that away and we put those reports together ourselves.
Awesome, good stuff. Nothing more from me. Everyone that's joined, hope you found that helpful. As I said again, please reach out with any follow-up questions, and anyone watching on demand, please do reach out. But that's it. We finished a little bit early. Thanks again for joining, and speak to everyone soon.
Thanks all.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.